Okay, we are live. This is Get the News Straight. I'm your host, Glenn Sutphin. This is my co host, Chris Dorsey. Um, Welcome to tonight's show. We're going to talk about the rally we attended, the PSYOP operation for Ferguson. Um, uh, where should we begin?
Well, I want to maybe start with the announcement and how the announcement took place and how it was like a movie set during the announcement where they had cameras pointed at a looking like some sort of police or official vehicle with maybe the lights on top, and that there was a crowd gathered around it, and they failed to push it over and then started breaking the windows, and then all of a sudden about 20 armed SWAT officers come pointing their guns, and then the crowd disperses, and just how it was just kind of like a movie set the whole time, like fake from the beginning, and that they announced it at night, so that's when you couldn't see the riot being set up by the cops, and you couldn't see the cops out in the SWAT uniforms as easily starting the fires, for example, at the Advanced Auto Parts. But in a number of different places, it's not just, you can't just start a fire and have it like be engulfing the city within like
Seconds.
just a short within seconds. Like you
That
gotta
happen.
yeah, that's a pro job
Yeah.
to take those buildings down.
Plus, the doors were locked. The locked buildings that
Right.
catch on fire. Yeah, yeah.
So-
There's a lot going on here. That,
Right, the media, police,
Media.
feds, whatever you want to call them, the National Guard, whatever sort of intelligence or XE type group, craft,
yeah, Kraft,
whatever
Blackwater, same
whatever
thing.
sort of non-organic people. That is who is directing this whole Ferguson, Michael Brown outrage incident. It's just a big, we'll say Fed, because the Federal Reserve Bank controls everything. So anything that somebody's a paid operative, that they're not what they seem, that's what we'll call feds. And it's not like, oh, this guy's Richmond City Police undercover, so when you call him a Fed, you're wrong. Or this guy works for, some international communist organization, and which is just a front for, the Soros institutions and the, CIA fronts, like, the Tides Foundation. In any event, we will refer to them as feds, and we will stick by that, or I will. And I'm saying that
I might call them narcs.
narcs, feds.
That's what I grew up calling
Right,
them narcs.
they're definitely
so
narcs.
Yeah.
We catch them on camera narking. Like there's no dispute of that. But what we're saying is they're not what they seem. We have proved it.
They're operatives.
They're operatives, and they're admitting it. And if they're not operatives, they are absolutely the worst at representing the people or fighting the system, because we've got them on camera working hand in
or
hand with
just
them.
plain downright liars.
I mean, all of them. They're leveraged. They're leveraged through money. They're leveraged through their actions. They're
Useful idiots.
Well, there's a lot of them, but I don't believe any of them, because it's like those folks like that like the guys walking around Carytown with their unloaded weapons.
Yeah.
And we asked them on camera, and we're like, so you guys involved in politics? And they're like, no, we're not involved in politics. So you guys, what do you guys know about the Constitution? We started like quizzing them on the Constitution, and they don't know anything. So they go out on the street, they get media coverage, they spout things off about the Constitution, which they have no comprehension of, certainly no understanding of, and they're not involved in politics at all. But then we start seeing them involved with lobbying groups and cop groups like Virginia Citizens Defense League. It's the same on the left, same on the right. We are dealing with the left folks.
Yeah, probably.
Folks,
more.
this with this Mike Brown stuff. Yeah. But again, we saw the asshats at the last Ferguson rally.
Yeah, it goes the other way though, and you get the right involved too, the far right. So
you got
when you get the far right and the far left, it's the same beast anyway.
Because we had the libertarian crew, and we had the gun right fake Christian fucking asshats that again like with everywhere we go, it's like all these folks not involved in politics in any way, but leading the charge. We got folks out at cannabis rallies who don't consume cannabis or never been involved in politics, and they're holding up a sign that we document. We point these people out, folks. We'll point these citizens or agents or whatever they are out.
Yeah, I haven't figured out a word yet.
Say narcs, feds, whatever, saying all sorts of crazy stuff. And then them telling us, like, in front of the state capitol or walking down the street with a gun, a big flag, on a flagpole, telling us that they're not involved in politics. I'm like, come on. And these folks, they don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know what they're saying. They're we ask these communists, we go like, okay, you're communists. Okay, well, let's talk some, like, Marxist rhetoric to you. And it's like, they don't even get that. They don't even get, okay, do you know how money works? Not really. Well, then why do you think you should have, like, a legitimate political position? Why are you always constantly, surrounding yourself with political activity? You don't even know how money works.
But you're not political.
But some of these folks we're talking about that say they don't know how money works, they say they are political, and they're this leftist group. That we have on camera. Like, there's this guy named Nathan Stickle who says he is an FBI informant on video camera. Like, I'm confronting him for telling lies on the internet. First he acts like he doesn't know what I'm talking about, then he says, well, what exactly was I saying? And I'm like, well, you wrote it. He was misinforming the public, and I'm like, you're a misinformation agent. And he replies with saying FBI informant. Hundreds of people have seen it.
You posted the video. The video's up. It's up on the page.
Right. He said, I keep telling this. He keeps denying that he ever said it. Each time,
maybe we'll include that in Wednesday's show.
We'll definitely get that one in there, because he said it. I didn't say it. He's the one that said it. He certainly acts like an FBI informant. He certainly acts like a narc. He certainly is engaged in political misinformation. He certainly is working with folks that are clear feds like Phil Wilato.
At the beginning on channel, what was it, channel 6 or channel 12?
Oh, channel 12.
He's in front leading, like, cheerleading in front of the crowd on the news. So they're right out in front, right? They're leading the march, and I'm not doing anything.
That's led by the police.
Led by the surrounded and led by the police.
Right.
And we're out there. We're supposed to be out there demonstrating against police brutality, surrounded by police.
Okay, now we can. I guess that's the segue
we'll segue into that, because that was a little bit strange that you're out there demonstrating against the police, but using the police for your protection and Homeland Security for your protection to protect you from what?
So the point is, like, whenever like we've seen any of the stock footage from Ferguson, the most famous stock footage is always the hands up, call and reply.
Hands up, don't shoot.
It's like this call and reply, the same group that was doing the Occupy. There was this OPTOR operation, this, like, Canvas, OPTOR, CIA, Mossad, like, whatever sort of infiltration this is. It's the same folks from the Occupy, like, literally the same individuals leading the crowd, and the crowd is so easily led with the call and response. We got some call and response,
right,
but the most famous call and response in regard to this Ferguson operation is hands up, and don't shoot. Hands up, don't shoot. That's the call and response.
And you got shot anyway. So
well, that's the point.
We're making several points here because
but also
it's very complex.
Always, here's where it boils down to its simplest form. It's always these folks, at least in the city of Richmond or anywhere else, surrounded by the police, screaming, hands up and don't shoot. So they're all yelling, hands up, don't shoot.
And I'm going to start calling them cheerleaders.
So these are mass surrender operations. Like, regardless of anything else, the bottom line is that there are hundreds and hundreds of folks, citizens, slaves, yelling, hands up, with their hands up, saying, don't shoot. And what are they? They're on the courthouse steps or at the Capitol Square, and they're surrendering, surrounded to a bunch of police who are just following them around. Like, they're following them around. Like, there's a mass surrender march. That is what's caught on camera. A mass surrender march. Yeah. And we keep telling people this. Don't put your hands up. I did it the first time I did it with the megaphone. This other one, I felt like, I didn't want to do it with the megaphone this time. I wanted to be a little more subtle because we've already
demonstrated what's going on.
Right, but we
don't
said
have to keep doing it.
Stop surrendering. You're surrendering. You're surrounded by the police.
There were some guys that we did get on tape that were like, yes, you're so right. Why is everybody yelling at us? Because we're telling the truth and they don't see it. And these people were like, why are they yelling at you? You're telling the truth. They don't. And they understood the dynamic.
What these folks said was, this is just like, a show.
Yeah.
It's like a show, like a made-for-TV show where there's an audience. There is the camera crews.
A bunch of bad actors.
The hosts, which are the media.
The
media, Joe
not the
St.
press,
George.
not the press.
Oh, the corporate horror media.
Yeah,
Chelsea Rarick, Chris Thomas, who was Nate Eaton, who else was out there? One more. Laura Geller.
Yeah, Laura Geller.
That was the TV. There was of course Richmond Times-Dispatch, Brandon Shalita, who, check out Richmond Peace on YouTube. He's on, Brandon Shalita is caught lying. Brandon's full of it. But you see his coverage the next day in the paper, total racial divide, saying America, KKK was the chance, how many kids have you killed today was a chance. Black Lives Matter, just totally being divisive, playing the game, because this is just a big divide and conquer psyop. It's a big
destroy.
Race war psyop. But there's colors that matter, but the colors that matter are, the black Amex and the freaking, green cash. Those ones with the money controllers, whatever, and the gold, I guess that's a real key monetary function. The black gold too, if we want to talk about black, but it's not about so-called black people versus so-called white people. This is just a big psyop, and it's like to push an agenda. To push forward this agenda, and we've caught the folks that continue to do it in this town.
Well, not only did we catch them, a couple days later they went in the news and admitted that.
Oh, right.
They admitted in the newspaper and on TV, the media and the police are working with the protesters here.
Right.
That's what we said. We told to shut up, and then they come out and go, "Oh, well, that's what they're doing. Oh, well, that's good. That's for the good." That's not for the good.
They are saying that because, we knew, the Occupy stuff, back in 2011. I knew that it was already, we'd already, pretty much said, okay, when we started, we said, this is where we're going to do it. And then that's when the police, I don't know whether the police had planned on having it down at Kanawha Plaza before we decided that that's where it was going to be or not. But from the beginning of Occupy, that was controlled and paid for all by the Richmond Police Department, Department of Parks and Recreation. They may have picked up one of the bills for the porta potties. We have proof that it it was the Richmond police that were setting the whole thing up. We knew and told everybody when the raid was coming. We told everybody. And as soon as we told everybody, that's when they started saying, like, you're a rat, you're a narc, you're this, you're that. I'm like, no, everybody knew it. It was the rats and the narcs that were saying, like, don't pay any attention to Chris Dorsey when he's telling you when the raid is coming down. We told the police the whole time. I said, look, this is the guy to talk to. I don't want to talk to him by myself. And I never did. You know, we always talk with multiple people, but we were telling them exactly what was being said between us and the police. And then we had police informants and Army intelligence within the group, like Bill Nelson, who was the police liaison and also self-proclaimed Army intelligence. And then that's when a lot of threats and attacks came down when I exposed him as Army intelligence. But that's the only thing I ever knew that guy as. I never knew him as a political activist. Now all of a sudden he's Occupy Richmond, the police liaison, and he's spreading misinformation back and forth. And other people besides myself who know the whole time exactly what's going on can see that. It's the freaking folks. Nate Stickle, Phil Wilato, Alan Levenberg, Fareed, Alan Shinsis, aka John Shinsis. That's his real name, John Alan Shinsis. You're not fooling anyone with the name Fareed Shinsis. Come on. So anyways, it's the same folks. It's these same folks that are working within the system. Working with WRIR 97.3, which puts out political, propaganda. And who pays for that? The Department of Homeland Security gives a grant to the city of Richmond, and city of Richmond made 97.3, the emergency broadcast system. Why is that? They were putting out propaganda, but you couldn't even, back when the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security struck that deal with 97.3, it didn't even reach all the city. It might not even reach our section of the south side of the city where most people live.
Yeah.
So it hit the West End, it hit VCU, it hit those areas with the political propaganda, but it was also getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in a grant form from the Department of Homeland Security. So when they started pulling anti-Israeli, shows off the air and stating that was the reason that they were anti-Israel, well, no wonder, because it's being paid for by the Department of Homeland Security. And who do we have? Who has a show on there? Phil Wilato and his wife Anna Edwards, the so-called Richmond Defender. Where do they come from? They dropped into this town 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They've been in and out, but through something called the Workers' World Daily, which is an international communist organization. That's what I was told by this man who used to be involved in this activity for many years. Going back to the 1970s in Richmond, named Hippie John. He was real name John Mahoney. So. That's what I would say. What's going on? Why are these people such double crossers? Because back 6 or 7 years ago, I used to wonder what's going on. These guys say one thing and then they do another. What's going on with these guys? And what I was told, well, they were, this guy Wilato who pulls the strings. I mean, on a lot of these folks is seemingly, he seems to be at least a consultant for a lot of these folks. We're told that he's dropped in by international communist organization. We can tie them to, he works with folks who are funded by the Tides Foundation, the National Endowment for Democracy, and of course, the Answer Coalition. I mean, that's George Soros right there. So, we got them. That's what these folks are. That's what these folks are. Show on 97.3. All right, well, I used to work with 97.3. What did they do? They erased all my tapes. I remember talking to Ralph Nader after we did an interview on the Nuremberg principles and the current war crimes, and this was back in 2008, being carried out by the Bush administration and the United States military and how the kind of the government was unlawful and so forth. He said, well, that was one of the best interviews I've ever done. How did people react to that? I was like, nobody heard it because somebody there erased the tapes, and there's lots of different rumors about who was erasing tapes that we were creating, where we were proving back in the day, back 6 years ago, that Dominion Power was poisoning the water, back before it was like so obvious with the nuclear radioactive meltdown caused by the earthquake. Even before then, we were getting them on camera, and I mean getting them on the record and saying that they were like poisoning the earth, and folks were just erasing those tapes. Some say it was Alan Levenberg. Some say it was Liz Sobieski, Liz Humes. Some say it was Christopher Maxwell. I don't know. I mean, that's what different people were telling me. But I'm saying, like, these folks, they're all feds. Like, they don't do anything. Like, they're either like paid feds and like that they get money for doing something like this, but they're not doing any good for anybody. They are controlled opposition. They've been doing the same thing around the same town for decades.
Forever, yeah.
There's the same old folks, the same old retreads.
Doing the same tactics, doing the same thing. And when you start learning what they do and you start looking at it and you step back and look at it, you can spot it a mile away. And it's like,
I mean, anybody who's working with the Sierra Club right now, they have been told, like, they know. I mean, are you kidding? Like where was the Sierra Club when they turned that nuclear power plant back on that was leaking tritium on an earthquake fault line? What were they doing? They were pulling weight for the Democratic committee. They're pushing forward the agenda. They're a fraud. If head of the Follow the James chapter of the Sierra Club, fraud, bought and paid for, tool of Dominion Power, head of the regional chapter of the Sierra Club, fraud, crook, will take your money and put it in his pocket, a political operator, a atheistic Jew. I mean, that's it. I mean, it doesn't get any more simple than that. It's all fixed. We've got the people. We're like, you fed. Watch this. You're a fed. You're working with this person. You're doing it openly. The bike marshal's taking orders directly from the police.
And then running my foot over.
I mean, we had that. We had a lot of that. We had a lot of, this is another reason we're kind of escalating all of this, because everybody's getting real grabby lately.
Yeah.
Folks are getting grabby, and I've been assaulted by the police. I mean, countless times. Not by any uniformed police. That is, because like I keep them at a distance, enough for me to react, in whatever manner I need to react to, and I never let them walk behind me. But as far as these agents, these same old hacks that are doing the same thing, at protest after protest and manipulating and driving into the ground, movement after movement. We've got them on camera. Like, you want to talk about like the InfraGard and the clergy response, and how it's saying like it's laying everything out for us. Like, if you do watch the news, you can get an education. You can be shown everything, how it really works.
They show you right on the news. They say, here's what's going on. Hey, you can even learn how to join, because they recruit you through these things. So InfraGard is a FBI organization of public people, not people, but persons, public persons. That is a group of snitches, is basically what it was set up as. So you could spy on your neighbor, the see something, say something crowd. And with Homeland Security,
yeah.
Department of Homeland Security there, see something, say something's in full.
I get emails.
Yeah.
Emails telling me if you see something, say
Yeah,
something.
look up InfraGuard. InfraGuard. And it says right there, I'll probably pull that up Wednesday too on the show.
Okay, yeah.
I'll link to InfraGuard, and the clergy response is all the 501c3 churches, all the pastors are government owned, government run. They tell the pastors, the government says, you tell your congregation to turn in their guns, and the pastors go out. You have to turn in your guns because I guess Romans 13 says, whatever. The thing that everybody misquotes. I don't even going to go into it. Render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, but it also says render unto God's what is God's. So if you really want to get to it, and it's another way of the government to tell you do what we tell you to. Well, the government was created by us, so why should we do what you tell us to do when we created you to keep our rights safe? And people aren't catching all this stuff, and they go, you got to listen to the police. Well, if the police are breaking the law, no, you do not listen to them. It is your duty to go, excuse me, you're breaking the law. You report. Do you help the bank robbers rob the bank? No. Why not? Well, that's kind of stupid, right? Yeah, especially when the cops are shooting at you. You're not going to turn around and the bank robbers are robbing the banks. We got to listen to them.
So again, we can tell how all the what is the bottom line of all this? What is the bottom line is it's showing, what we already knew is that all these opposition groups, they're controlled by the institutions that control the government. They are 100% like puppets on a string. That's it. They're displaying this on television in a kind of irrefutable manner. There are actual documents that they would never go into detail about. And basically, it's just, at the end of the day, they want to make it seem like it's all right, and the police keep saying, we're going to protect you. Not only is it okay, but we're going to protect your right. So they're trying to make it seem like the police always have to be involved. They always have to be inside these groups because, we can't have those rights without the police, but that's just simply not true. We have these rights all along, and the police are not there to help us out. The police are there to control the group, because at the end of the day,
it's all
with
about
this
control.
one, if the police are protecting everybody's right to protest, then what does that mean? That the right to protest is equated to everybody being gathered and surrounded by the police and surrendering? I guess that's what they're saying.
And at the end
they're
of the
protecting
day,
our right to surrender.
And at the end of the day, if that's what you want, go for it.
Right.
I'm outside the police line going, you're stupid.
Right.
You're stupid, because I walk through the police line. I walk around with the police. I talk to the police at these things. I talk to the camera crews. I talk to the media. I film the media filming you all. And they're telling you, well, you're supposed to surrender. Hands up, don't shoot, surrender. Next, they're going to have you on your knees. And I did yell that. I did say that in the video. Okay, now everybody on your knees, because that's the next step. And then, okay, now that you're there, how much power do you have? You don't. Why not? Well, you can't do what we do. Why? Because you won't get off your knees. You won't get up and stop surrendering enough to go, hey, this is wrong.
I mean, what is that surrendering thing? That's like the main thing. So it's like I comprehend how this magic stuff works.
It does go back the 60s. They did almost the same thing. So it's kind of it's kind of a
there you go,
cyclic.
That's where COINTELPRO started. Yeah, it started there.
Well, that's
and I bet
what
there's some of the same folks involved.
And some of the same chants.
Yeah,
some of these same chants are recycled through.
Yep.
So you were asking, that's kind of where it comes from, is COINTELPRO going, we can lead the demonstration. And then you got cheerleaders, Nathan Stickle,
Oh yeah.
cheerleader.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And
And every one of them, if you see them, they're leading the chants. They're cheering. They're because they start something and then they cheer it, and you all go, "Oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea."
well, that's why they love that call and response, and that's during the
Well, they're
Occupy.
cheerleaders. The
What they
cheerleaders
would
start the
call
call.
the people's mic, which was basically just like this old school like commie propaganda trick, which is just to have the crowd repeat back whatever sort of garbage they want, inundated into the brains of these, followers. And it really is disgusting that these folks, go out there and they obfuscate about what the real problems are that confront the society. The Federal Reserve Bank, the police state, they go out and say, oh, Black Lives Matter. What about all lives matter?
Yeah, all lives. I was getting, and then we're standing there, and you have a mixture of black and white people, and then you got this, we'll kill all the white people. Well, wait a minute. Black lives matter, but
right.
kill all the white people.
And we have, I love these rich white bitches who drag their freaking kids on camera, and of course they are privileged, which are most of these rats that we're talking about, that they're heavily come from wealthy families, and they go, oh well, it's just bad. I wouldn't know, because like I don't know what the issues are for this, but like definitely, well then give up your freaking house, give up your private school, then don't give up your Prius,
give up your privilege,
give up your Elwood Thompson, your natural market free range everything, give up your privilege, because we're going to take it from you anyway. I don't care who joins in. I'm not going to, as we were saying today, I'm certainly not going to like go backwards. I'm already free. I'm already sovereign. There's already no government official or judge that can tell me anything. So other folks can have that too. And how I know that is because, that's what I say. And also there's, genealogical records. So, and the law defines what one of the people is. So there you go. Like, I can't be taken down a certain level. I'm up here, but we want to bring the rest of the folks up with us, because, this is pathetic. This slavery you're under.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really think you're gonna go out, like, you know what, man, all these folks, they're angry at the police, saying the police is the enemy. You know who's carrying that sign? Fucking police. So if the police are the enemy, do we see any of those little bitches say anything to the police? Do they even know who the police are?
They did. They went back to the police to report to the police. So yeah.
Right. But what I'm saying is, do we see anybody getting in the face of the police and getting it on camera besides ourselves? No. But we did. We always do that, because like the police mean nothing to me.
I turned my back on you all. I turned my back on you all because it was like,
you always.
It's like, you know what? You're not the target. You're not the target. Nate Stickler, you're not the target. Phil Waleto, you're not the target. You're a useless idiot. The target I go after is the people that are doing the actual crime. I don't go after the people in the bank when there's a bank robbery. I go after the bank robber.
Right.
So
I
go after the police.
Why are the folks saying like, hey, let's gather at the John Marshall Court building, have everybody stand up there like it's the stage, like they're on stage.
It was stage. They were.
It was like on stage, surrounded by all the corporate media and many cameras
and all the bad actors and
right. Yeah. Surrounded by the police on the inside of the building, police
up on the roof,
police
with
up
the
on the
snipers.
roof of the public safety building, police behind, surrounding and always surrounding him.
And the plane,
the plane
and
flying
the drone
above.
or whatever they were
Okay,
flying around.
so everybody's up on the stage, and what do? They don't start smashing in the windows of the public safety building or the courthouse and going we're not going to take this anymore. They surrender and say hands up, don't shoot. Like they've all marched down to this place and they're like, okay,
we're going to march en masse to
surrender, and then we'll march down this broad street, the largest street and most prominent street in downtown Richmond, surrendering the whole time to the state capitol. We'll walk from one government building to another government building and surrender
again.
Yeah.
Surrender the whole way through, and then surrender again.
Too bad we didn't stop at the federal courthouse or the federal building where the police were set up. Where our first video is filmed. That vehicle in the background everybody's gathered around is a Homeland Security vehicle, and that's the federal
Homeland
building.
Security standing there.
But you know what? I mean, what do? We just basically stand out there. Maybe they've got more guns than we do, and we just never see them. But certainly we stand in front of the federal building with our loaded weapons and walk on their property and say that. I never see these folks come out and say anything. I see them sometimes drive down the street, and every time I do, I make sure I tell them to eat shit.
The Department of Homeland Security did come out when you were yelling at that one guy and asked us what the problem was.
Remember? Oh, and I told
we told him none, and go back. We don't need you. Yeah, well, we don't need you.
I'm like, you got a fucking problem?
We're allowed to yell at politicians.
We can yell at that fucking.
We can yell at whoever we want.
Oh, Mike Herring. Yeah, Mike Herring. Because it was tax day. And, I was asking that, degenerate, scum-sucking crackhead, Mike Herring, what's up with these taxes? What's up with your, treason against the U.S. Constitution? But he's just a big fucking piece of shit. That's what it is. He's just a fucking sack of dog shit. And we were just kind of yelling across the street at him. And then was that a woman who came out?
I think so. I think it was.
Some stupid fucking, person comes out and it's like, is there some sort of problem? And I'm like,
you got a problem?
No, I just told her exactly what I was doing. And then I said, do you have a fucking problem? Get the fuck back inside. And that's what she did. Because what else can they do? This bitch is trying to fucking intimidate me. So
all of us, and then she realized, well, wait a minute, there's a lot of guns out there, and
of course they knew who was going to be out there, and they knew who wasn't going to be out there.
They were watching us the whole time.
The right gatekeepers knew of the Tea Party. The right faggot gatekeepers. That's right. I'm calling you faggots from the Tea Party. You child molesting faggots. I'm telling you, guys who run the local Tea Party, the bankrollers of the local Tea Parties, I'm telling you, you guys are pathetic. You guys are losers, and you guys are as bad as the freaking commies, and you work hand in hand. And I see, those folks you work with down the line, Nathan Cox, he'll work with both of them. He'll work with the faggot, Tea Party fags, and he'll work with the faggot commie fags. And, he'll always push forward whatever the fucking media's pushing forward. Race baiting. Black victim. White cop. But, he doesn't know any... He's just... it's all these folks. They're just the most suspect individuals that you can imagine. And we've pretty much got them all on camera. We got... the folks who run in the Tri-Cities Liberty Alliance. I see folks I know as feds. And whenever I see folks I know as feds at a meeting, like when I first saw, John Monet at a Tri-Cities Liberty Alliance, I knew that obviously this group was infiltrated. When I would get calls from folks in the Tri-Cities Liberty Alliance saying that, FBI agents from Texas and North Carolina had come in to infiltrate the group, it was no real surprise. This is what was going on, and when you can tell that it's reached the top already and that somebody's brought them in is when something like this happens right before a meeting, and the folks running the meeting, they don't want to talk about the FBI agents. They are aware of FBI agents coming in from out of state, but nobody wants to talk about, because some folks might already be cooperating, or they don't want it to be known that this is some sort of, or it gets in the way of their agenda, which is them, for another reason, covering up for this group being infiltrated. In any event, everybody needs to know when these groups are infiltrated by federal agents.
I'm beginning to think that they all are from the beginning, and you just
Pretty
may as well,
much.
if you're in a movement,
like a bowel
movement, yeah, a movement.
Right.
You may as well just say you're co-opted.
It's infiltrated.
Infiltrated, if nothing else. If not co-opted, infiltrated, used as.
But what's so funny?
Pusher.
That's why we did all these things. Like, I like these tricks, because it's like you can like outgame the system. Like, because there's certain things the media will respond to. So like, I go in knowing the concept. As soon as something has a name, it's already infiltrated. So that's why we changed the name of our groups and organizations so far. And sometimes it's just like it's part of the operational, like, integrity of the event is the name of the event, because that's what people know it as, or the name of the group. But then we change the names, and because as soon as something has a name, it's already infiltrated. And the media, they always want to know something. What's the name of your group? Because like at the beginning, when we started back, doing some operations, some constitutional operations, and we were kind of co-opted by the Democratic Party at that point, we started saying, we're just the people. We don't have a name. And then we noticed that nobody would pay attention. So then we would come up with some name that we just made up, and then they would all of a sudden start paying attention. But it's all just made up words and names, because it's like
smoke and mirrors.
It's smoke and mirrors. But it's all infiltrated, like you say. It's all of it.
Yeah, from the top down and from the bottom up. I mean, because the more I look at it, it's like, because I've gone into some of these things thinking, sounds good to move, oh great, somebody really should do something about this.
Right.
You got to go, and then you get in there and you're like, yeah, okay, finally somebody is, wait a minute, I know that bozo. I know that asshat.
Right.
And you start looking around and you go, well, these
all right,
are
let's
the
have
same...
4 meetings a day.
Yeah.
Let's break up in groups. You're the media group. You're the outreach group. You're the group that gets pizza. You're the group that stands there pretending like they're waving signs when actually, like, you just spend all the time making... it's just...
And you guys stand there and drool.
Yeah, and you guys... And we'll have 4 meetings, and then we'll have more meetings about the meetings, and then we'll have a committee meeting.
We'll talk it to death, and
right.
then
everybody will be gone by the time it's time to do anything, right. Which will never be the time anyways. So we know these tactics. We've seen them. We see the
too many times.
Too many times. So we know all these groups are only there for the perpetuation of this system. Which, okay, if you're for this system, the way it stands, if you like the way things operate right now, I mean, you can continue to watch. You got free will. We can't control you, but I don't want to have anything to do with you. You are my enemy. So anything that perpetuates this system is my enemy and gets in the way. Even if somebody's incompetent and they're getting in the way and they don't even know what they're doing, like, they're still going to pay for it. They're still going to, like, they're still going to, like, suffer the consequences because they've chosen to, like,
But I can handle an ignorant person. Okay, somebody that's ignorant of all the facts and is just a mess up and doesn't know any better. I can handle something.
But they still
like
suffer their own consequences.
Yeah, I understand that, but I can understand them. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand them being, they're ignorant, they don't know any better. Okay, I can understand that. When you know and you're willfully ignorant, you're a troglodyte. Okay. Yeah. That's the word. Troglodyte means a willfully ignorant person. So, but if you're willfully ignorant, no, I can't stand that. And then when you're retarded at that, on top of being willfully ignorant, you're a retarded troglodyte. That's even worse, because you're working to perpetuate the system that I'm totally against.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
So I'm definitely totally against the retarded troglodytes. I'm against the troglodytes. The ignorant person, not so much.
well, the ignorant person, you know, they're also like there are levels of it. If they don't want to
Well,
hear,
ignorant people, you can show them and they might respond and go, "Oh, I never knew that." And once they know, they turn around and say, "Hey," and then become a great asset. So
I mean,
and then they
they're
not
not.
knowing,
We're
knowing
informing
it
them.
right.
We're informing
Well,
them.
I'm always informing
I
everybody.
mean, this stuff is like, you know, because to do what we're doing, we you need like a dedication and maybe even a little bit of a like a intuition, like high
The,
intellect or something like that, because it's like if you're gonna get involved and you want to start, you know, speaking for other people and start these movements and put yourself in opposition to, you know, the current criminal system, you better know a little bit of what you're doing or what you're talking about, because like that's a real stupid place to be if you got
yeah.
yourself worked into this system and you're at the top of some sort of opposition organization and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's a bad position to be in, and there's been something along the way, probably one's ego, that has really, you know, caused some damage to their karma to get themselves to be put in that position.
Yeah.
But I think it's a rare thing. I think usually when people are put in that position, they're feds, they're trained,
fully
they
know.
know what they're doing, they're being leveraged through being blackmailed, they're being paid, they're working out a family agenda. Any one of these things, but they're motivated in some way to be doing something underhanded other than shooting straight, other than being a competent actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just pretty much as simple as that. Like, either you're gonna like come along with the body of the people that says everybody is free and we're all sovereign, and that the current government and the institutions that control it cannot be sustained, and life on this planet is dependent on the abolishment of the current usury system, or you're fall into one of those categories of really like ego-based karmically fucked up, like, you know, useful idiot, which is very very rare, I think. You know, some sort of counterintelligence agent, paid undercover city state, you know, private contractor, somebody who's being blackmailed or being leveraged to go along with this system, and i.e. family agenda, money in some way is the operation. Because again, when we see big crowds, you know that it's a money operation.
Pretty much.
When you see big crowds, you know that there is some money involved. NAACP, clergy response team, police,
Or
you
that
know,
it's pushing a major agenda that's a
pushing
hot
a
button.
major hot button agenda again. And what have these folks been doing over the years? They've been taking the same angle on the same hot button issues for many many years. That means that they're getting paid for it,
And it works.
and it
Obviously,
works.
if it didn't, they wouldn't keep pushing it. So
Right. So again, we know who these folks are. We can connect the dots with the folks that they're working with. You know, we'll say some national names of some counterintelligence operations like Code Pink, you know, the Oath Keepers,
the Green Movement.
any sort of green movement is totally co-opted by all this stuff.
By everybody. And it's multiple. It's a spider web. There's multiple people doing multiple things that interlock.
Right.
So you go, well, it's this person. Well, no, it's not just that person.
They're playing their part.
They're playing a part. Everybody's playing a part, and some of these parts merge together so that you can't really say it's one corporation.
So
doing
yeah,
it.
whenever does the Sierra Club say, like, you know, we don't want any more nuclear energy. No more nuclear energy.
I gotta really look back into the Sierra Club, because I think that's the one that was Monsanto, connected with Monsanto.
I mean, the Sierra Club is just,
I'm not 100%
operation.
Well, I understand that, but I do believe that they're Monsanto connected also, and I know they're definitely Agenda 21 driven.
And what do they say when the James River's on fire? We get Glenn Bessa, the atheistic degenerate Jew, who gets on television.
In no way hurt the environment.
where he gets on television and says, well, we need to ban this stuff because if it fell on this track in downtown Richmond, it would, it would destroy a lot of property and people would die. Like, man, you're not the decider of what, like, people dying and stuff. But when you see the James River on fire, I didn't see you say on TV, fucking James River's on fire. We got to do something about this shit. This is totally fucked up. No, you push forward the Democratic Party agenda. I know how you work. I know your little pawns in the fucking game. And I mean, we laid it out. We can start laying out for eons and eons all these folks involved, how they're making money in these little scams, whether they're getting paid like $10 an hour for gathering signatures, when they're unemployable any other way, or whether they're, getting $15,000 raised for them, in order to, like, stay in their home. We know who is compromised. We know who's pulling the strings on those things. They overlap. We see the same individual persons, like, year after year doing the same garbage, being the same gatekeepers, leading the folks on the wrong track, living a lie, perpetuating the system, perpetuating the agenda of their, folks who rule over them. It's a lot of homosexual activity. It's a lot of trauma-based mind control. It's a lot of rape. It's a lot of all sorts of things. Think about how many rapes took place down at that Occupy Richmond thing. When we started going forward and when we started, attempting to talk to the public about it, the cover-up was in. And everybody started covering up, including the police.
Well, yeah, when you got something to hide, you're definitely going to want to cover it.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about any of it. That, like, they don't want to... How many agencies were involved, in this raid? We knew when the raid was coming. We don't know how many agencies were involved. We knew that there were undercover FBI agents. We knew that there were undercover Federal Reserve Bank police, city police, state police. Who else? I mean, there seemed to be all sorts of different people coming in and out, like, affording to be able to buy, Starbucks, while some of the folks in there were, like, starving. So, like, where'd they come from? They pop up, they leave. They come in, they're displayed in front of the crowd, they get all the inside information, and then they're gone. Who are these people? I mean, we know some of them. We've identified them year after year. So, like, those folks, they're done. I mean, these movements, they're done. Like, Fed operations. And if you don't like this, then you're just gonna, then it's what we were talking about earlier about the normalization of government control of opposition groups is what they're pushing. And I don't really hear many people talking about that, but I think that that's basic facts right there. Normalization of government-run opposition groups. And that the only purpose for that is to act as if that there is still a purpose for the First Amendment.
Right. Yeah, because my First Amendment's dead, trust me.
I mean, because everything's controlled. I mean, it's not dead for us, but, it's dead. It's dead for the average person.
It's dead. It's not dead for us because we still use it. We still abide by it. We still keep it alive. It's dead for them because they say, like me, I wasn't talking to anybody out there. I mean, you can watch the video. I didn't say anything to anybody.
Talk about the last Ferguson rally.
The Ferguson rally.
Yeah, the PSYOP.
The PSYOP. I didn't say anything to anybody. All of a sudden, they started coming up and attacking me. For what? Because I was exercising my First Amendment right, which is guaranteed to me as press, which is what I was doing. And then they come up and start harassing me and attacking me. And, of course, looking back now, seeing through my life some of the events that have happened in my life that we've been talking about through the week, a lot of these people that are at these rallies were also in my front yard grandstanding over my friend's death. So why do I have animosity towards these people? Would you? I think you would. And I told these people, I don't know who you are. It's like, you better remember who I am because I'm coming. I told you I was going to do this. I told you I was going to put all your secrets out there. And here they are.
Yeah, I mean, they can't hide anymore, and it is a lot of the same people where, like Charles Willis.
Yeah, Charles Willis,
who was a speaker at the rally, and then he's just like a Richmond police tool, and because he's tied in with Reva. So Reva's a little psyop operator. Besides being a veteran badge bunny, she's just a little spokesperson for the police, and she's disposable too. She's just effective. She's effective for them. But yeah, you're talking about Charles Willis there.
Yeah, Charles Willis. He was the one that spoke at my friend's funeral too.
Well,
gave a plaque to the widow.
That's that Citizens Against Crime thing. That profit from all of these deaths. And that basically they're tied in with Woody, Tarasovic, and the rest of the police unit. They're sycophantic ass lickers too. And again, like, they're all exposed. They're all out there. Like, are there enough honorable people out there to do something about it? Like, you ever heard of like, maybe you ever think like that they like they denigrate like certain aspects of things, like the founding fathers, or like these knights or something, because like they had like a code of honor, and that they knew right from wrong and stuff, like
to make them less honorable than they were.
Right. So it's it's like, where, like, if you have like a code of honor, or this is the other one we were talking about, Christians. You got to read the words of Jesus Christ, and because that's like the key. That's like one of the most important keys. That is like the key, I think. When people really understand that and comprehend it too. You call yourselves Christians, and like, if you go serve it at your job, it's your everyday job. If you work at a mall, or definitely if you work for the military, or you work for the state government, or you work for the school system, it doesn't really matter where you work. If you get paid in Federal Reserve notes and you pay taxes, you're serving the real Satan that you believe in, that's real, like the demons, and also the allegorical, like, making a deal with the devil. You're serving the devil. Like, you're serving the devil. So, you can debate me on this, and I would look forward to it, because I would within a matter of seconds have you either look like a fool, or you have to agree with me, because we've already worked this out. This system is the devil. It is. It's like the Antichrist system.
What is it? What's the root of all evil?
Well, it's the money system.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, okay, some people torture other folks as long as they get paid to do it, and some people, some folks,
you don't have to pay them to do it.
You don't have to pay them much, but always a transaction. There's always a transaction, But the thing is, that's it. You pay for torture. You pay for bondage. You are in debt to your own bondage. If you ever go to your local municipal meeting, you'll see how bonds are taken out on you. I mean, so you just basically are pathetic, and you certainly aren't Christians. You're just actually the opposite. Because you want to talk about the masses, we'll talk about what they said. Is like, straight and narrow is the path. Wide is the path to destruction. So we're reaching a very small sliver of the very small sliver. But hey, that's what they say. Narrow is the path, and the masses, they won't get it. The masses, that their psyche is suffering. Their karma is suffering because they don't know.
Well, they've also been. I mean, people think, oh, this is something new. This has been going on for decades.
Yeah.
This has actually been going on since before I was born, before he was born, before most of us were born. It's been going on. So we're fighting a system that's been in place at least 100 years. At least. So saying that this is something new, or you don't understand it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, a lot of you don't, because you're born into it. You won't understand it. You're not seeing any other way.
Also, study history.
Yeah.
Study history.
Real
study
history, not what they tell you history
Study
is.
your history of your parents and your parents' parents and their parents' parents and on down the line. Study it and then see how it corresponds to the history of the United States, the history of every sort of different location, whether you're talking about the Jewish so-called Atlantic slave trade or the usurpation of the royal families and natural law and order of the European there's always some sort of conflict.
Or the Irish slave trade.
The Irish, oh, there you go. Yeah, look into that one. That one's a pretty disturbing one. They don't like to talk about that too much, but yeah, Oliver Cromwell. Well, who fronted Oliver Cromwell? All the freaking so-called Dutch masters. Who were the Dutch masters? They weren't Dutch, but they were Jews, and they controlled the Atlantic slave trade.
And Monsanto plays in that one too.
Monsanto, look up Monsanto. They made their money during they were Italian Jews who made their big bucks during the slave trade, owning slave boats. I mean, look into
Great
the history.
company.
Look into the history of the plantation of Rhode Island. If you want to talk about Jewish slave trade and the Jews controlling usury and black and white slavery, so-called, from the time that this country was formed, they had rules to keep these folks out, and it didn't work. So it's like they want to go like this is their funny thing. Like, see, we're a very what is this? Persecuted minority, they'll say. We are such a persecuted minority. The persecution doesn't fucking work. Like, so isn't that the funny thing? Like, I don't like to get too far into it because, like I say, it doesn't matter whether they're Jews or whether they're Gentiles at the top. I don't care. I will treat them.
I don't care if they're Martians at the top.
I don't care if they're Martians.
Whoever the hell they are.
Whoever it is, it's not Martians.
I understand that, but I'm saying
but,
you get the analogy. I don't care if they're purple, okay?
But I'm just making this point to expand the mind, and because this is like these are key things for the comprehension, I think. So you ever think like where they're expect the so-called Jewish usurers and Jewish bankers for all sorts of different reasons, this is documented throughout history, are abolished from all these different places, and they now are under control of them. So these abolishments and these persecutions, they don't work. So don't act as if there's the old Polish saying like the Jew cries out in pain as he strikes you, but this stuff isn't working, so their persecution is not an actual persecution. It's always something that they are themselves controlling.
It's a perception, but they're good at masking the perceptions and making them and manipulating
magic.
them. Yeah,
magic.
Illusion.
Right, that Kabbalistic magic, that Talmudic magic that says, oh, you can go back on any agreement that you make, any contract you sign. It's null and void. You can do what you want, and it all is forgiven by God, by their God, which is not ours, or not mine, I should say. I'll speak always just for myself, but this stuff is very clear. Who's in control, what they're doing, what their agenda is, and who's going along with it. Certainly that look at the Bushes, look at the Cheneys. They belong, they're the first ones that belong in front of the firing squads. I mean, and that's what we really need to start discussing. We need to start discussing how we're going to neutralize these folks, because there are certain folks that they really, they have committed treason, and we all know what the law is.
Put them on trial. We find them guilty.
Right. I mean, there's overwhelming evidence.
Then hang them.
Whatever.
That's what it
Firing
says.
squad, hanging, yeah.
Hanging is what it says. Hung by the neck till dead. Or firing squad.
So we can talk about like strategic points. So when the war between the states began, it began in a number of different places, but in this region it began at Harper's Ferry, and that's because there was an armory there, and that's because it sits in a strategic place along the Potomac River. probably like 80, 90 miles, west of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so what happens? There's a paramilitary federal force funded by, some, well, they say New Englanders, but, you know, Jewish bankers. They come down and they want to fund both sides of this. They got Judah Benjamin on the south side. They got their crew set up, so need something to spark this off. So what happens? They invade the town. They try to take over the armory. The local militias, they put it down. They put down the insurrection. Then comes Robert Lee, and the Federals and the Federal Army, reporting to the governor of Virginia at that point, Wise, and also reporting to the president of the United States. And so it's Stonewall Jackson, not Stonewall at that point, Thomas J. Jackson, and Robert Edward Lee. They come in, they do the cleanup work for the militia. And all those folks that were set up, John Brown and his crew, they were hung. They were guarded by the Jefferson Guard, and then they were hung. And so that was what they do, because they mess with the armory and the militia. They took care of that. So this was to set things off. So what we're saying is we need the military, we need the police, we need them to stand down and show deference to the body of the people. And we're going to work forward from this point with the next session of the General Assembly in order to get that done. I mean, nobody disputes, nobody debates with us, because we know what the law is, we know what the history is, we know what the players are, we can follow the money. And
we've done our homework.
We know what we're talking about. If you can't catch on to what we're saying, then you don't know what you're talking about. If you're thinking something different, you're not educated. And if you think you are, then please drop it by our office, because I will graciously say your name, thank you, and you will be my new guru. When someone tells me how I'm incorrect about how the system works and how to correct the issue and correct the problems, and how to execute the law in the fashion it was designed, in a factual and lawful manner. If someone shows me how I'm incorrect, you are my new guru. I will follow you, and I will dedicate my life to following the guru that has laid out the plans. But I'm taking the plans from smarter people than myself in the past, and we're just adjusting it and implementing them in a manner that's for our time and place. So this is it. This is the militia. Wherever we sit, that's where the seat of power is around here. That's where the legitimate seat of power is. So this is the legitimate seat of power of the Virginia government right now. They're going to talk about all sorts of different things during the General Assembly session, half of which we're not going to do. I'm not going to pay my taxes to the state. The state of Virginia says I owe them fucking money. Good luck getting it out of me. Good luck attempting to lawfully do anything. Those people in the tax office, they know better than to call us. So what we're saying is, join us, get out of the way, or you're part of the opposition, and we will have mercy on those who are, deserving of mercy, and those who have shown no mercy will receive no mercy.
Well, getting back to a point that you said, Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter so damn much, why are you aborting all those black babies?
There you go.
Why are you aborting, 53 million babies a year or something, whatever it is? It's a phenomenal amount of money.
And who's pushing that? The Democrats.
The Democrats, yeah.
I mean, certainly the Republicans are as well.
Well, the eugenicist, Bill Gates, Margaret Sanger,
right.
Those people, they're the ones that pushed all this. Same people that pushed the Tuskegee syphilis
Experiments.
experiments and sane people. But if your lives matter so much, why do you kill so many of yourselves?
But you know,
I
it's
mean,
they always have to have insiders that are betraying. You know, they
well, definitely, but
because you know, I mean, people are betraying all the American people, and I think of the closest people to me as far as like folks that I know and that are, and I would say like at least 40% are not what they would call so-called white. The people I care about most on the planet, if you break them down into like maybe, you know, 20 to 30 people that I care about the most, I would say like at least 40% are not white. So like all this division stuff is all nonsense. Like because it just doesn't flesh out. It
it's only
doesn't
there to divide and separate us
right.
into controllable groups.
Right. So also, weren't there like there was a double murder like just right down the street, not that long ago. There's murders in this part of town. Like, I mean, there's a lot of murders in this section of the city of Richmond, and the majority, but not all, are are black people. So like, why are you gonna like march in the street for something that happened 2,000 miles away for something that happens in the city of Richmond, like, 3 or 4 times
Weekly.
a week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe not 3 or 4 times a week, but definitely weekly. So like, it happens every week, more than once a week usually in general, but yeah, weekly. So why, if it matters so much, why don't you worry about the stuff that's gonna
In your
happen
hometown.
tomorrow and yesterday and last week in your hometown? Because it's just a distraction. That shows how stupid you are. Because it just goes like, oh, well, I'm concerned with something that I have no control over, and stuff that I have more control over that's more important, I'm just going to pretend like it
Ignore.
doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
I'll just ignore it.
So
And
you're
look
showing
over.
your own incompetence. Like, that's a big key to all this. It's like, I don't want to include everyone. I don't want to include dishonest people and folks or dishonest persons, I should say, or I guess
Well,
they
even
could
people.
be
They
people
could be
too.
people. Yeah.
They could be people, and folks, I don't want to incorporate that into or incompetent either. Like it's all like you gotta like want to like get stuff done right. I mean, isn't that like a thing? Like you want to be the best you can be. Like I don't know. Are we part of the First Earth Battalion? Because that that just got into like be all you can be. Like be the best you can be, and this like army propaganda got into the minds of like little children who were watching that that ad campaign, but it doesn't really apply to anyone else. Was that part of it? Who knows? But what I'm saying is, don't folks want to do things right? Don't they want to be part of like a successful thing where it's like, look at what we created.
One would think. One would think.
Look at what we overcame. Look at what we gathered together. Look at what we made with God's gift of life.
The media hasn't told them that that's what they need to be happy. So a lot of these people are media driven. If it's not in the media, if
Right.
it's not on the
They're money
television,
driven. Yeah.
then they don't. It's like, oh well, so what? And yeah, they are. A lot of them are ignorant. A lot of them are just sleeping. They need to be woke up. And I want the people that are
But
sleeping
don't-
and waking up
I want the people who are like,
and are going to do something.
want some sort of glory too. Like folks who are like adventurous and like, want to
Better
do
than
something
planet.
with their lives that's extraordinary. I mean, what's the sense? I used to be a slacker. I used to think that the key was getting high and drinking beer and watching Comedy Central and ESPN all day, every day while munching on whatever garbage the fast food / every other chain restaurant had to feed me. But the thing is, that's pathetic. That's like the old saying, like fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. It's just like it's not the way to do it. It's like do something with your lives. It's time now. Like this is not some sort of like preview to something else. Like,
Yeah, this isn't the rehearsal.
this is not. Yeah, thank you. This is not. Throwing out these like self-help phrases or whatever.
This isn't a rehearsal.
This is the real deal. You are really an American living in America, or you're watching somewhere else and you've been given the same rights by God, whether your government acknowledges that or not. You're a creation of God, and you have something to do on this planet. So let's do it. Do your part. Do what you can. Do something. Like this stuff is crazy. What passes for
whatever they call it.
I haven't Black figured it Friday. Out they like that's where the crowds gather. Like,
wasn't Black Friday the selling of slaves at first?
Well, oh yeah,
where they would sell the slaves. It was Black Friday where they would sell extra slaves at half price for the coming winter. So,
I mean, there's that I don't know whether it's that or whether that's when it goes from the red to the black, from when the retailers first make a profit for the year. That's what I've always heard, but I mean, it could be either way. It's still
whack.
It's still slavery. It's still slavery if you watch the people fighting over the inanimate objects that are going to be half as much the next year.
Or not only that, they're going to be on sale before Christmas.
They'll be on sale again before Christmas, and then but it's like, again, who's got the money to shop? I don't.
I didn't.
Who are these folks out there that have all this money to shop? How are you getting this money? Why are you spending it on, whatever sort of useless crap? Because the folks I know, we're having a hard time, paying for money for food, paying for money for gas in a vehicle if we're lucky enough to have a vehicle. Skipping, going without certain things that we need, like, for a day or two, just
to make
it. So when I see these stuff, like, so maybe we can get it back around the wheelhouse of the economy. It's the economy, stupid, and say, look, another record high on the shortened day on the stock market for Friday. Another record high for all the composite markets, or whatever they want to call them, and they're doing live oh yeah, people are out shopping. Shopping's up from last year. We already got it. It's better than last year. It's great. It's awesome. Low gas prices. Don't worry about the high food prices. Everything's going great. So how is it that everyone that I know is struggling to pay for anything?
Because they're lying to us again.
Right.
I mean, that's the only explanation is they've been lying to us. They're lying to us. They will continue to lie to us.
Right. So if you feel like things are going great for you out there, like, then I would say, like, if you're for real and things are going really great for you, then you're one of the folks that we're targeting, because you're benefiting from this evil usury system that is all a fraud and has all of its priorities switched, inverted. It's like we're reading a tarot deck and all the cards are inverted.
Upside down.
Backwards. Upside down. Backwards. So, and they're using a lot of this stuff that they're using. I mean, it's the money magic. It's all the magic they're using. And, they don't have any sort of code of honor. They just need to be destroyed. Like, the folks that are knowledgeable about what's going on. We were talking about the conspiracy theory that people haven't seen George H.W. Bush in a while, but isn't there some sort of quote? And I really should check this out before I before I say it, but I'm going to paraphrase a quote from that's attached to George W. Bush. If the people knew what we Bushes have done, they would chase us down on the street and lynch us. I mean, that's the only thing that George H.W. Bush has said that I agree with. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Take him up on his offer.
Let's take him up on his offer. If you think that that's something that's not a good idea, you don't have any you don't have any concept of what this individual has done, what kind of treason he has carried out and committed, what kind of a usurper and traitor he is, what kind of enemy to the real people of the United States he has been and his family have been for generations and generations and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So we've had enough. That's it. We're going to start factionalizing things because we do have our faction. The body of the people, it's going to be a larger faction than y'all's faction. The body of the people, we still make up the majority here. So join us, and a lot more people are bloodline related to the body of the people, regardless of their melanin levels, than they might think. And that's all we're saying. We're just saying, like, we don't have any restrictions as far as being in the body of the people, but it's already self-evident. It's just there. You're a body of the people. When you're sovereign, and no one can question that. And even in their Talmudic devil system, I'm still an Israelite in the eyes of the law. So I don't worry about anything. I hope others can join us in the freedom, and I hope our faction will always be free, but I hope our faction ends up back in its rightful place, controlling the United States government, the United States of America, controlling the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is the most important state in the United States, controlling the state of Maryland, which is the second most important state in the United States. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're moving forward with. And those who get in our way, and we are forced to neutralize, we'll do it in any way that we have to. And that's about it. The facts are what the facts are. The UN agenda is what the UN agenda is. The testimony of treasonous members of the United States government are what they are. The actions of the pedophiles and the child prostitution rings inside and out of every chief of police, a president, government agency, of
the world,
social services all over the world, but especially at least in the United States, I'm sure all over the world too. But we know that this stuff is going on. We start talking about the child prostitution rings run in this very city by specific agencies where they know better than to send some sort of summons, because we're not a dead body. We're not going to reply to some sort of summons, but nobody will sue us, because what are they going to do? Expose themselves in a court of law and document it? No. It's time. We're going to take you down. Next, we're gonna do things. We're gonna do it in a pleasant manner. We'll show these stupid fucking idiots at the sheriff's office and the police department they don't comprehend the law, that they're barely literate, and that their bosses are even stupider. Like, you piece of fucking shit, CT Captain Torture Woody, you retarded Uncle Ruckus. So, I wouldn't mind just closing with that. But again, we have the power. If there's anybody in the government who's just not a pathetic sack of shit, it's on at this point. It's on. We've embarrassed you. We've called out FBI, the head of the FBI, right to his face here in the city of Richmond in front of nothing but a bunch of cops who are just a bunch of cowards. They really just are a bunch of low-life, pathetic, bitch-ass cowards. They gang up on folks, and if they don't have enough to gang up, they'll run away.
Pretty much.
And if they're not ready to shoot and kill someone, they run away. Or if they're outgunned or outflanked, they run away. So that's it. Police are bitches. Government officials, for the most part, especially the ones who make the most money and have the most pull, they belong in front of firing squads, and we need to make it happen.
Yep, that sounds good. I think we'll wrap it up there, man, and we'll catch up on the Wednesday show on the rest of the stuff for the psyop that we were part of.
Right? Yeah, that'll be key to look at, and we want folks to, if you see folks you recognize in there, just let us know what these folks' name are. We know what a lot of them are, but some of them we can't identify because they're wearing costumes or they're masking themselves in some sort of way.
So yeah. So, all right. Well, that's been this edition of Get the News Straight. I'm Glenn Sutphin, your host. This is a man called Chris Dorsey.
Peace out, y'all.
And we'll see you next time.
Auf Wiedersehen.